Oh,
You are now live.
thank you. Thank you, Aisha. Welcome everyone to tonight's FBS Chat. We have Michael Torben Meyer from near Copenhagen, just north of Copenhagen. I'm really pleased that you can join us tonight because I think a lot of the work that you do resonates with the kind of work that we do over here in terms of dealing with social workers and families and young people. So yeah, tell us about your journey. How did you get into this mad line of work?
Yeah, I thought about that question because I've listened to the other chats. So
Mm,
it's actually a good opportunity to just look back.
mm,
The very first time I was a newly educated social worker and was thrust into quite a heavy workload, and we were forced to go on this. I worked in the municipality of Copenhagen, which is the biggest in Denmark, 800,000 people and 50,000 employees. So it's a big organization, and we
mm,
were, my little district of maybe 20 people were going to some training, and none of us had any idea what it was. And it was some new modern ideas that came to Denmark at that time in about 2004. And I remember it really, really frustrated some people from my team. And it was this solution focused. It could be used for everything. It was just amazing theory that it presented to us.
mm.
And some people actually walked out just because they found it so frustrating.
Oh,
And a guy called Lester and Henrik trained us. And I remember there was just one moment where it kind of got my attention. And that was the first time I encountered the scale question.
mm,
Because I'm kind of raised, I've done a lot of sports as a kid. And it was always about how you can improve. You know, why are you not a 10? What do you need to do to be a 10? And
mm,
focus was always on what was lacking. And that just kind of, for me, it was a moment where it was just turned upside down with the question, why am I not a 0? And to actually look at, it was very much kind of an inward looking. So what actually worked for me was just such a refreshing, a very new way of thinking for me that
mm,
it really got my attention. And then I think I just made a decision saying I wasn't really sold on the idea, but I had to kind of, I thought as a social worker, I had to specialize some way. And this
mm,
was a method presented to me, and I just used it. And I used it in the beginning very kind of rigid. I had my questions with me. I came to the families. I said, I've learned this new method. I'm not really sure about it yet, but do you mind if I ask you these questions? Because I think it might be helpful to you guys.
mm,
And it was for me, it was such a nice way to actually train
mm,
because it was very transparent that I was not an expert. So they could also tell, that didn't really work so well, or that actually was
mm,
interesting. But I actually also found I was quite young. I think I was 24, 25 at that time. Didn't know much about families. And suddenly I was a caseworker for a lot of very different to me families. At that
mm,
point, I worked with pretty much the richest and the poorest in Denmark,
mhm,
from very different ethnic and religious backgrounds. And as a happy middle class Christian boy, I was just, how did I meet these people with respect? I was very, so I think it gave me a respectful position towards them. Like,
mm,
I don't really have, I'm not going to tell you how to be a parent here. You probably know that better. But can I help you somehow? And
mm.
that helped just with these families. So I found it helpful. And
Yeah,
since then,
yeah.
I've just worked in different ways.
So you said that okay, you guys, you're going on this training. Um, you went along, and you said some people walked out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
it was a very interesting team. I
yeah,
to remain sane, I had this picture of being part of, do you know the Tintin comic books? We had
yeah, yeah,
all those eccentric characters in the team.
yeah,
We
yeah.
had Professor Tournesol, we had Haddock who suddenly would start swearing at people. All sorts of, we used to have a dog inside the team meetings. It was such a great bunch of people. And some of them, they have been there for like 30, 40 years, and they didn't want to
Mm.
do some kind of new fancy American theory.
Mm.
I'm so glad. I'm so
It
glad.
worked for them, but they already did. So,
I'm so glad I was on mute when I was laughing, because it was a very loud laugh then.
Yeah. Was it because it was an American theory, Michael? Do you think that kind of, I don't
partly,
know.
and it was new. And it was
Yeah.
also introduced, the trainers were fairly new to the idea as well. So they're kind of taking it down from the shelf, and it was very new in our field. So they were also a little rough and experimental with us. But it was a great time. I mean, we really learned a lot. And yeah.
How come you never walked out?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Lester, who was the trainer, I hired him later on in my career as a trainer for my caseworkers. And he always quotes me for this, because I was the one who gave him the worst feedback. So he was always like, why is it? And this guy's staying. I think that it just got me this whole thing of looking at what works. It was just a brand new concept for me. I really wasn't, in my family, in my training, in my sports. I had never encountered that, to actually focus on what worked. It was just a mind-blowing thing. Yeah.
So
I was always used to talking about what didn't work and how we could improve.
Yeah. And I was interested to hear about, you were talking about sports and it felt similar. What was the similarities between your kind of sporting background and your social work hat?
No, actually, it was the whole improvement thing, right? That in sports, I mean, if you looked at a video from a game, I played competitive American football at that time, and if you looked at the video, nobody ever said. That was what I can remember. One point where I was shown something that worked, but 10 out of 10 times it was, you did this mistake, you did this mistake, correct this. You always focus on what you didn't do well. And then the same with families during my education. I mean, we had to pinpoint all the mistakes they had, right? And the longer list, the better. Yeah. And very often I found that list that I mean, my own family background and myself, I couldn't live up to that myself. So I felt struggling a little bit.
Yeah. And you were saying that you kind of met families from all backgrounds, all kind of, different issues and such. How did this approach help you with so many different kind of clients, I guess?
Yeah, I wasn't really busy on putting my standards on them or my norms. I was curious on how it would work for them in that context. I mean, I had a lot of Middle Eastern families, and these parents had so much experience that, who was I to a 25-year-old kid that, hadn't seen much of the world? Who am I to come and tell them how to be a parent?
How do you? Because obviously, as a social worker in the UK, you kind of have to wear two hats, right? So one is the protection of the child and what's going on in the home, but also working in collaboration. And sometimes I think people might find that difficult. How did you navigate knowing that my organization or my bosses want to see this improvement, but working with the families towards what they wanted to see?
Yeah, at that point, I don't know if I was always so conscious of it, to be honest. I think we very much worked towards some goals, and we worked a lot with signs of safety. That was the big thing. So kind of working with the danger statements and be very clear about. And I think that just, so I wasn't conscious of it now. It's just a few years back, so I forget. But so I do think we worked very consciously with the danger statements and being very explicit about what we actually wanted. I think that was the new thing for me, was not to be vague and kind of, we're here to stay in your life, but actually, what do we want to see to be out of your life? Or what is it that you guys as a family need to, and to work on towards that? I mean, and be very explicit about, I don't want to be here, you don't want me here, so how can we work this out together?
Yeah. And that's often a question we ask our families, so what needs to change so that the social worker, not because you're bad people, but they're no longer in your lives. So I guess that must have been quite an unusual question to ask families, or refreshing for them to hear from someone who's in a statutory service, or we call statutory service here.
Yeah, I think so. But I do think so. Okay. It was, it was, most of the time it was great.
So after your training, do you remember, so you've got all this, you're fired up, you've got all this kind of different way of asking questions maybe, or a different way of collaborating. Do you remember the first family you tried it with and how it was different?
I think I followed very much the questions in the beginning and the emotions. As a caseworker at that point, I didn't really, carry the process through much. So it's more kind of, assessing the case. But I changed my job into a different position where I would work closer with the families and not have such a big caseload, but more a few families. And there it became very evident to me, because that was based on a solution-focused model. So that was the whole thing that we were hired to try and how could that work out in some of the most concerning families, and with young people, into crime and so on. So it was kind of the last chance before they would move from the home. So we worked very much with our back against the wall. So there we would kind of get some goals from the caseworker, and then we would work to see those goals achieved with the families. And I think just the fact of actually, one of the amazing things was we actually just tried to look for what the kids were actually capable of. Some of the kids, I remember especially the first parent meeting we did, they were all really, really concerned being called for parents meeting, because every time, at school, and it would always be something the kids hadn't done. So we would always take the kids away for a trip, and we would just do a competition and they would always win. We would have an award for every kid. So every kid would just be the best of something.
Yeah.
And for the parents to actually just meet somebody who told their kid won an award of something, they were kind of almost sitting there waiting for,
bad news.
The bad news. And we didn't have any for that, actually. We just said, he's great at this. We also need to work together on lots of other issues, but that's another story, kind of. So those were also exciting times.
It must have been so nice for those parents to hear something different from the normal. Your child has done this, your child has done that, but you're giving them something about their strengths, I guess. And what you've noticed.
Yeah, so they all had strengths.
So you kind of changed your role to working more in depth with the most troubled. Would that be fair to say?
I came from an area where we recruited those kids, so we had plenty. So I just had a few of the kids that struggled the most. Yeah.
And you say you took them on trips?
Yeah, we actually did. Yeah, we went to Finland, and we did some some great adventure with the kids,
Yeah.
which
Uh,
was just
So
amazing experiences.
yeah, when you said that, I'm thinking back to a time when I went on a trip with some young people um, in Wales, in part of the UK, and there were moments of absolute joy, and there were also moments of we need to keep an eye on because I don't know what's going to happen here. What was that like for you going on these trips? Because we were up all night, Michael. We couldn't sleep. We had to make sure that everyone was where they were meant to be.
Yeah, we did several trips, and the biggest one was 1 week in Lapland in Finland, or northern
Right.
Sweden, which is amazing because there was no cell coverage.
Yeah.
There was nobody else. We didn't see anybody else for several days. So the kids were allowed to bring anything they wanted. They just have to carry them themselves. So it was so easy. And to see those kids who were constantly, their whole nervous system was triggered constantly. What is my parents doing now? What are my friends doing now? Suddenly they could just completely relax.
Yeah.
And they were not allowed. The only rule was they were not allowed to wear watches. So most nights, because of that whole, it was pretty much light 24 hours a day. Maybe it became a little darker 2 hours a day. So we went to bed like at 4 o'clock at night and stuff like that. And I remember because I used to sleep in a tent with 2 other boys, just the 3 of us. And I remember one moment where I was very, very tired after we did hiking through the scenery. And at one moment they wake me up because they have a lively discussion. Who's actually paying for the trip? Isn't it kind of their parents, because their parents are paying taxes? So
Right.
I wasn't very solution focused. I was like, shut up, go to sleep. But it was an amazing moment of these kids being transformed, they didn't have all those friends putting pressure on them, our parents. They were just in the moment, and it was amazing what could happen between people alone in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Then the whole story is we went back and their friends overwhelmed them, and we had to go on, what you call it, like we had to take off because we had been on so much work time. So that next week after we came home and we didn't stay in contact with them, they were right back into their normal hectic lives. So for a moment it was amazing.
Yeah. And just thinking about the trip that I did with these young people, we went to a cave system where you had to just get in completely dark, go through all these narrow passages. And when you looked outside the cave, you could have been in prehistoric times because there was nothing there to remind you of the modern world. And I think they really loved that. Is that kind of, like you say, getting away from the tech for a little bit.
Yeah.
So you went to this team, then what happened next? What was your next adventure?
Yeah, I was there for 3.5 years, and then I needed a change because I think what has always driven me is a curiosity with the people I work with. So I just felt I had all the answers to the questions already kind of in the back of my head. So I actually became like a social worker at schools. And suddenly I went from families, who I remember one time where I went to them because they started to fight with a knife. If they were just fighting with fists, I was like, okay, we'll take it tomorrow. And suddenly I was in conversations with people at a completely normal public school where, some of the kids would come to me because there was pressures from parents or just very ordinary kids. There was also some with other social problems, but it was a very kind of normal spreading of kids. And I did that for another 3-4 years. Yeah.
So you felt you needed a change, and schools was the way to go for you. Why schools in particular?
I just needed to see normal kids' life. I had for some years I had just worked with families who, through the pressures of life, had, formed some very different patterns, and I just needed how do normal kids actually work. And I actually did a lot of I did some classroom coaching also on the whole wow model. That was amazing. And also like kids with divorced parents who fought like cats and dogs, and just more like regular problems.
So this is very similar to my journey, thinking about it, because I was in a team where young people had already committed crimes, and we'd try and rehabilitate. And then I thought, maybe if I went into schools, I could do some more prevention rather than waiting until it got to that point. I don't know if that was the same for you. I found the school system a bit, I don't know, how did you find working in that system?
I actually realized one of my motivations, that's why it's great to chat like this, because suddenly you kind of reflect back on your own history and learn something about yourself you had forgotten. Relearn it, I guess. But one of the things, what some of these kids, the moment that many of them were like on the edge of normal public school, and the moment the public school couldn't have them, they would go to we had some special schools and so on. The moment they just snapped, they kind of lost that kind of holding on to normal life, and they became just crazy in their behavior, because they were like, we're not normal anyway, so we'll just do whatever. And I think I had one of the things that kind of drove me towards working at schools was that kind of, I saw it was so important for these kids. So I wanted to explore that a little more, I think.
Yeah, and it sounds very similar to the system here, Michael. So, once the schools say we cannot meet this person's needs, they end up in what we call a pupil referral unit. So they're out of mainstream education in smaller contained environments, which is great for some. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. But for that young person, it must feel like I've just been rejected again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But people don't care enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did
You asked the question about how I found schools. And actually, I found, working solution focus was some of the hardest. I thought teachers were very difficult to work with. I really had to but sorry if I'm being too, but it's because they really teach from the heart. So it's what they do. So to tell them to do something differently towards a kid, it's like telling them to be another person. It feels like they're doing violence to themselves. And I remember one elderly teacher who was really teaching from the heart, has done that many years. And I asked this because I really had to prepare them before the meetings with the kids. Because when I asked them what actually works, they would be completely quiet if I had not prepared them. Because they hadn't seen it. In a class of 20, 25 kids, we don't have more kids than that in Denmark. So we're privileged like that. But still, they look at the kids that make noise, and all the rest kind of, just become one big group. Yeah. So they only knew when they misbehaved or when they didn't do their stuff. So when they got really quiet when I asked them, so what works for this kid? When do they actually just sit normally in class? In one context, does that happen? And I remember as I told this lady, I said, so when? She said, never. It never works. And I think I've always been a little, I don't know, more stupid than clever, more brave than timid. So I just said to her from my heart, I don't think that's true. And she looked so insulted, like she was lying to me. So I said, if he was always misbehaving. He was being in a psychiatric ward now. He would just be screaming and running around all the time. If he never just sat down and did schoolwork, he would simply not be there. Because of course, at some point, he would be doing what he had to do. But I completely admit that you have not noticed it. And could you just notice? Try and look out. And she really turned around. It was one of those moments where you would either get kicked out and never talk to again, or that you would actually have a breakthrough. And I just remember that she really came back for that meeting, had done her homework, and she was just amazing. And I remember moments like that. So generally I had great experience working at the schools. I think,
Were there any teachers that stood out for you as being solution focused but not really knowing what it was? Do you know what I mean? That all the kids kind of warmed to?
There were lots of great teachers. I don't know if they, I would identify them as solution focused. I don't think I honestly, also because I didn't see enough. I mean, I was only there to hear about, and they came with their problems to me, right? But I think one of the things that really worked well for me, and it actually came out of a story that I saw it where a kid was referred to me because he was really struggling because his parents were fighting. And I had one initial talk with him, and he just said, "I hate when my parents are fighting." And I called up the mom afterwards, and I just said to her, he says this to me, he hates when you guys are fighting. So please be aware, especially on the phone. And I hung up. I mean, we ended the conversation. And then I didn't, to be honest, I was so busy. So I never spoke to the kid again. And very often I would tell the parent, the teachers when they referred, I said, I will have a talk to the kid, but can you please keep an eye afterwards if there's any changes and let me know. And suddenly she came to me after, I think, a month or two, and she just went, it's long ago, so I can't remember the exact, but it was some weeks. And then she goes, "You have done amazing work with the kid." And I was like, I didn't say it out loud, but I had forgotten the kid. So I had not called him for a second talk.
Right.
And I was like, oh no. And I remember calling up the mom. And as I said to the mom, the teacher contacted me. I'd forgotten. I think I said that honestly. I had not called your son for a second talk. But I just want you to know that the teacher has noticed a huge difference. What happened? And the mom broke down crying. And she said, "Yeah, it's because you said that last time. And I have really tried not to fight with his dad because they was divorced. And it was so hard because he's such an idiot. But I really tried hard." and she was just crying because she was so proud of herself, and that had paid off, seeing the kid actually change his behavior. And so I very often just, talked to the kid, told the kid, the teacher will really keep an eye on you, and she will be looking out for all the things you now do right in the class. And I told the teacher, "Can you please notice him a little more?" And very often things just changed because the two of them started to interact. The kid had a notion that the teacher is actually looking out for me, for what I actually can do. And the teacher started to look out for that. So very often there was just a positive spiral that had very little to do with actually. So, so I had lots of great experiences like that.
Yeah. And it's so important that when the young person feels they're trying, that someone notices. Even if a teacher says, "Wow, appreciate the way you interacted today," whatever it was, those small moments of noticing when they're doing something right, it's like you say, it's really important. And getting the parents on board, because often we find that parents have issues with the school have issues with the parent.
I normally say to people, and I don't have many anecdotes, so I kind of repeat them. That's why I sometimes have to change job, because then people get fed up. But the saddest thing I ever heard in my work life is one girl at this school who got into trouble with some fighting, And she just said out in the room to me and the principal, I think, "You can call my dad, he's not coming anyway." It was just the saddest moment, because she really in her heart felt he didn't care. So we could call him all he wanted. I had another father who stormed into my room one day and threatened to beat me up. And it was just like, wow, you imagine being a kid that you know that your daddy is ready to go to jail for you. I mean, I was so impressed with him. I said, "That's so cool. Your son must be so proud." And then I said, "Sit down and tell me all the things that your son can do that makes you want to fight for him. Because you're on your way to jail now. So if you hit me, you're going to jail. But I would love to hear that how amazing dad you are." And he sat down for a long time and told me, and he kept saying, "But all the other kids, you have to do something about that." "Yeah, but I will do that later. But right now it's about your son. Tell me some more that makes him worth going to jail for." And we had an amazing time.
But what a great question. Tell me about your son that you're willing to go to jail for. That is brilliant.
I was quite close to going to jail. There was only a table in between us. That was the only thing that stopped it. So I had to think before he came around the table.
And you know, many people would have probably thought, right, we need to end this meeting now. I'm going to call the police if you don't leave, and nothing would have been solved. But you asked a different question.
But do you think that's the influence of being solution focused and always looking for how we're going to overcome the challenge that's in front of us now, rather than seeing things as a problem? So here's a father in front of us who's quite passionate and is really worried about his child. He's very angry with the system, very angry for whatever reason. And rather than doing exactly what Joe said, you know, "I'm not going to tolerate this language and you're threatening me and blah, blah, blah." It's more about, and I would say it's a solution-focused influence of being a quick thinker and, right, this challenge is presented before me. How am I going to overcome it in the most useful way?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I just want to highlight that that are really impressed with you and impressed me about you and Joe. That let's not be so caught up with being solution focused that we cannot be humans, or we cannot, be in the situation of building relationships here now. Because I think for many, I mean, often I've been very kind of rigid in the conversation, or very kind of and I really battle this, what is solution, what is not solution focused, especially as a leader, when you say what is solution focused leadership. And I for many years I got all, and I really recently come back to this thing about, okay, what works? Can we do some more of that? And then secondly, I will think about, was that actually solution focused? So to come back to your question, I think part of it is my personality is probably not too afraid. I played American football and so on. So I'm not too scared of the physical confrontation. So I could think clearly in the moment if, my front brain might freeze too much if I was too scared of the confrontation. But I have that. I mean, what's his name now? Steve, aren't they all called that? The guy from Science of Safety. What's his name?
Guy?
No. Science of Safety. Turnell.
The other guy. Sorry. If anybody's listening, sorry. I have the book here. 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, you can get your book.
Yeah, Andrew Turnell.
Turnell.
Andrew Turnell, Steve Edwards wrote the book, but he's he used to tell this story from England, where there's this social worker who comes to a home, and the father comes out and he does this whole impersonation of that father, and he says, "Fuck off," and the social worker says, "I can fuck off now, but when can I fuck back?"
Oh God, I need to mute myself.
And he just says, I remember him saying, this is where social work happens. All your theory and all your books, it's in that conversation, that exchange of words, that you build something together.
Absolutely. And I don't think I don't think that's exclusive to a model. I think that's exclusive to your personality, being a quick thinker and not seeing certain situations as a threat, but more seeing it as this is a person that's very frustrated.
Yeah.
And we have that a lot, Michael. Sorry, Joe. We have that a lot, Michael, where we'll have some professionals say, they're a hard to reach family, or they're very aggressive, or they're very this. And we're like, well, there's no such thing as a hard to reach family. We're just not speaking in the way that they wish to be spoken to. And we need to try and find the language to be able to form a collaborative relationship, to be able to move things forward. So you're absolutely right. And I'm a huge advocate, and so is Joe, as you know, and there's so many of us out there in the SF world where it's not all about being solution focused. It's about having the knowledge of being able to provide what your client is looking for. So what are they a customer for? Giving them what they need in a way that they'll understand and respond to. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Saying to that father, who said that he's going to fight you. That was a brilliant response and a very quick-witted response. And that would have helped his son in turn, wouldn't it?
I think so. I think, it's definitely better than going to jail. But I do think so. I think he probably became a better father at that moment, because when he started to say it, of course, he felt proud and went out a little better father than when he came in.
Yeah. So, what happened after your period in education? Where
then
did
it
you
all
go
went
next?
down the hole. I became a manager.
Oh no.
As part of this program I was part of, where we went to Finland and all that, I started to take a master education. And then it was part of it's called Leadership and Innovation in Complex Systems. So I thought, okay, now I've taken this master, let me use it for something. So I became a manager or team lead in social services for caseworkers. And just to go back to your point, Aise, of meeting people differently. I mean, that was when this guy that I spoke about initially, who got frustrated, that was not happy, I actually brought him in, and we did 2 years of training in solution focus. And one of the things was actually that I was hired to do that, but there have been so many, and that's one of the things that really in social services, there's so many changes all the time that, and one of the things I have learned through the years is training takes a long time. If you have to change people's mindset and methods, it does take a very long time. So we did 2 years of training, and before the 2 years of training, I'd actually done 1 year of what I call the Trojan horse, because everybody knew I had to implement this. And all the caseworkers worked very well beforehand. I mean, so they were all like, come on, show us your new trick. So I did this every day, every month. We had a staff meeting. I would introduce a video or a little story, some solution-focused method or approach or tool or something. And I would just say, you don't have to use it. You can if you want to. But I made it very clear, this is Trojan horse. If I tell you you have to do it, you will not do it. I know that. They were a very mature, very experienced group of people. But if I show you a little bit and you actually do it, okay. So at one point they got so fed up with me and say, come on, Michael, you keep telling we have to do it at some point. Can you please just show us? So then we did 2 years of training, and it really changed. I was really proud of the way they implemented it. And one of the things that what I was most proud of is in that period, we didn't have any, I don't know how to explain that by English situation, but if you have to remove a kid without the parents' consent, you have to go through a council. There has to be a judge there and so on. And we didn't have any such cases. I mean, we did remove kids from home, but it was all done working with the families. And I mean, I was just so proud of the way they kind of exactly what you're saying, Isaac. I was trying to understand what is it, because all families want their kids to do well. I mean, all families want, and we can disagree on what is best for the kid at that moment, but no parent is going to tell us, we don't know, we don't want what is best for the kid. So to have that dialogue and that patience as a social worker, because it's so much easier just to say, I know what is best for the kid, get out of the way, we'll use the police to remove the kid. But we actually, they really did a great job of having these conversations with the families, and I think the kids were better off, even if they were removed after all. It was another process where the parents could be in it, and they could understand us, we could understand them. But like you said in the beginning, Joe, of course there were situations where you have to kind of be very clear about some things and it's just not acceptable. I remember especially one meeting where we had to line up to a mom that, she could not have 2-3 cats in the home with small children. It was too dirty, too unhygienic. So she got 2 weeks to get rid of the cats. We didn't care how. We would pay for it if she had to. She just had to get rid of them because the kids couldn't be there. It was the cats and the kids. And I think my solution-focused training has made me very clear, also on when I say something, as the counselor, as a social service, this is what we want. We're not going to force you to do it. You have all the free will, but then we'll have to do something else. So to keep emphasizing that, we would like them to cooperate, but we're not going to manipulate them or force them, or it's their choice.
Yeah, it's that balancing act, isn't it, Michael? Where you have the best interests of the young people, and you're trying to work with the family, and I don't know if it was Harvey or someone from Brief that called it twin tracking.
I was actually just thinking about that because at one point I went to Brief for a 2-day summer course. Okay. And all I came back with, I've looked at my notes because it was on SF leadership, and I looked through all my notes, and all I can find, all I can remember is the word "and," because so often we say, you are a very good family, but, or you have this problem, but. And especially working with the social workers who are not necessarily trained in solution-focused methods, once you kind of, it became very, but you're not hearing the problem. And then they just said it louder and louder. So as a team lead, if you acknowledge, I see all the problems, you have listed it well, and can we also talk about what the families actually can do? And can we also talk about the exceptions where it works a little better than what you're concerned about?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that just to force myself to always, that is a balancing act, like you said, have those two, but to keep the end very big. And because there's nothing like that teacher story, there's nothing that never works, Yeah.
So, and like you said, so when you went into the kind of management, you reduced the amount of children going into permanently removed from their families. There was some that went temporarily, but they came back in the end. So
it was with the parents' consent. The kids we had to remove was with the parents' consent. Yeah. So we didn't have those situations where we kind of, of course, it was in a process where the parents were heard, and we didn't have to kind of. I think that's just that kind of, do we actually remember what they're actually after? What are their frustrations? What are their hopes, and so on? To listen well for that. And most of them felt heard, and in the end consented to us actually taking the kid away.
So what other training have you done, or that you're in the process of, that is exciting you?
Right now, I'm in a leadership program here at my present job.
Mhm.
Since September, I worked with not the case workers, but the people actually doing the support for the families. And I have two things going on. One is that we have a leadership program. We actually I have another leader that I call twice a week and so on. And that kind of nearness of not just hearing some theories and there's nothing solution focused about it, but some other exciting stuff. And just the follow-up that is actually bi-weekly follow-up with a colleague can actually change my behavior and makes me aware of my own leadership behaviors. Another program we are doing compassionate, compassion, CPT, I guess it's called compassionate. How do you compassionate?
Compassionate focus therapy, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Okay.
So CFT must be in English.
CFT. Cool.
Yeah. But that's for the whole group, and it's something that kind of was decided before I came, and is another way of looking at how we function as people, and it's exciting because it's with my team, and I mean, just we were sitting in one big circle the other day last week, and hearing people actually just acknowledging what people do well and are happy about, just exciting.
Yeah.
So to get to know, that's like getting to know a family. It's getting to know my worker, my support work, with all their differences.
Yeah. Is this your in the next few years? Can you see yourself doing something else? Is there something that you're thinking? You know what? Maybe I need to do this.
I think right now I'm happily challenged, and I do think it takes time to work with people. So I've been there a little more than half a year, and I feel I just started. So yeah, that I'm there now. I think for me, being part of this is an exciting step. I mean, last year I was the first time I kind of did the SF24 together with a great guy called Jesper, and for me to actually just talk to other people like this is a new exciting step for me. So it's something I actually called him up because I was very comfortable with him. So if I had to do that next little step, it would be with him. I felt that. So he held my hand and we jumped in it together. So now
I have the link for SF24 when you and Jesper delivered a workshop is in the chat. So I'll put it in the comments for people to click onto. And it was a really, really good SF24 watch. So I highly recommend it. And Jesper's a lovely, lovely guy. Really, really sweet. Catalin's absolutely brilliant. His partner in crime. But Michael, you're also absolutely fantastic. And what I think I really appreciate about you, which is not something we hear often, by the way, is opening up your mind to allow yourself to learn different models. It's not just SF, but different models, different way of doing things, and then bringing all that knowledge in, that cocktail of knowledge, and whatever you feel at the time might be best suited for your client, then you can use it. I think that's absolutely amazing, and for me that is what being client-led looks like.
I worked very intently with fit in my previous job, so that was one of the times where I had to drop the scale, because if you have 6 scales in feedback informed treatment, actually you have 4 before and 4 after, then you really confuse people. I tried that to introduce like a 9th and a 10th scale, but yeah, I think, to be honest, it's more kind of out of necessity, because I mean, as a team lead, I don't have people long enough to actually influence their mindset. I can introduce a few methods to them, and to lead them well, I have to understand them. So why I'm sitting with my team for the training is, if I'm to lead them well, I need to understand what their training is about. And then I do think there's a whole battle about, how do we actually change people? Is it by looking more intently at their problems, or is it actually to looking forward towards the solutions? I would hold on to the last part still, no matter what, there's a lot of other theories, and
Michael, considering the work that you do, and you're also a dad, I mean, what do you do for fun, man? How do you relax, get away from it all?
I'm quite active in church. But beside that, I exercise. I do garden work. I found out through life that being physically active is the best way for me to relax. So it's not like I don't do any Ironman or any crazy stuff. But if I have to, I normally say, if I have a really frustrating meeting, it's at least an hour run to get out of my body. And have great friends. And having 2 teenage kids keep me quite busy.
Yeah.
We'll pick one up and put one before meeting this evening.
Are you a solution-focused dad, Michael?
Not at all. My daughter was overhearing a difficult conversation with one of my team members the other day, and she was like, "Wow, you really kept cool. I've never seen that at home." One thing that I actually thought about, because you thought you might actually ask me this, and many years ago I heard this. He was actually a Christian guy, but it was nothing about Christianity. It was about leadership. And he said this one thing that is very solution focused, I think. He said, our questions says more about our values than our answers. And I noticed in my parenting, my wife's first question to my kids, especially when they're small, was, "What did you eat today? Did you eat your lunch?" And so on. And my first question was, who did you play with? Did you have fun? So we kind of we supplemented each other.
Yeah, nice balance.
Yeah. So they did get food. She made sure of that. But I think in that sense, asking questions has been part of how I've been a dad. And I do think actually asking questions and listening for answers is very solution focused. We talked about it earlier, actually trusting that the answers they can come up with in different situations is better than what I can give up for advice. Because I have amazing kids, and they've already, outgrown my smartness by 50 times. So I've stopped kind of thinking that I can teach them much. So
I mean, I just got to the point where I said to the kids, what brought a smile to your face today? What stood out for you? Because just asking how your day went, just got a yes or no answer. There was no comeback from that. But we used football analogies, Michael, because the boys like football. So, did you score a goal today? Which basically meant, was there something you did you were proud of? And that's how we kept the conversation going. But they're very they're very attuned to you asking them very, don't use those solution focused questions on me.
I think you've got to be very clever in the way that you ask it. But then it's the same with clients. The way that we would ask a question, a similar question to one client may not be the same that you would ask to another. And it's the same with your kids, because they're unique.
Yeah.
You can have 5 different kids. I do not have 5 children. I have 2. But you can have 5 different children, and 5 children, then they're all so different. And it's exactly the same with clients. And I've witnessed my husband try and be a little bit solution focused with the children. And I remember, I think it was last year, he asked, at the time she was 9, he said, "Oh, well, what difference did that make coming to that conclusion?" And I never forget, she just looked at him and went, "Don't you start." Don't do that. I know what you're doing. Don't do that. And it was like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not going to write a book on solution focused practice parenting. Let me say that. I don't think my kids would be doing the Sorry?
Yeah.
You need to write a book now, Michael.
But what
we're saying this to everybody. You need to write a book.
Yeah. Or at least a paper, Michael. Come on. Start with a paper and then go on to a book.
Yeah.
Solution focus in social services. That would be a great type. There you go.
Yeah.
You've done it. You've been there. You've seen the difference that it makes. Because I always feel with solution focus, we have to kind of bring it in through the back door. Nobody really thinks it's going to work. Can this really work?
But I was actually at a leadership conference on Thursday with all the leaders in my council. So we're about 200 people in the room. And they have promised to bring in brand new theory. And Hazen Moon's 4 quadrants were brought up on the big screen.
Oh, amazing.
But that's solution focused. I was sitting at my table. Solution focused. It is.
Oh, no.
No.
We're never going to hear the end of it.
Don't tell Hazen.
Don't tell Hazen that,
watching
please.
This. No, he's lying. It didn't happen. No.
And I think that's one of the challenges, actually, because science of safety has been very popular in Denmark. Most
it was an accident. It meant to do something else.
Yeah. No, but with time, the whole mindset, we really battled with the mindset when it was implemented originally. And especially since there's a big turnaround, you just don't have time to explain the mindset to people. You just say, do 3 different boxes, and then you work with science of safety here. And the whole mindset, so you can do those boxes without being solution focused at all. You can do those boxes without actually listening to the answers or looking for exceptions. And so I think in so many ways it can easily just become a label.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I cannot believe that it's already been an hour.
Yeah.
Joe, can you hear me? I don't think he can hear me.
He's just agreeing.
This has been such a lovely conversation. I don't know. I'm kind of. I don't know if it's me, but we're coming in and out. I can hear Michael a little bit, and then it pops in and out.
Oh, well.
Is it just me?
If he hasn't heard you for the last hour, he's done really well, Isaac.
Yeah, I know. We did all right. We did all right. We did all right. We did all right. So
that's part of the solution focus. Nodding and
yes. I'm listening.
More, say some more. Yes. So solution focused.
Help me understand, Joe, while you're nodding so much. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. And I have really been looking forward to the experience of having you on as a guest on FBS Chat, because I do follow you on like LinkedIn and everywhere else. And I think you are absolutely amazing. And I loved your presentation with Jesper on SF24. I seriously think you are far greater than what you might believe that you are. The book will be on its way, everybody. He's going to write a book on a really good book on good practice in social working and being a good team leader. That's what Michael is agreeing to right now, because we all need to read that book. I'm really looking forward to it, Michael. So I'm going to try and do this with Joe. So any last words from you, Michael, before we try and attempt to talk to Joe and draw it to a close?
No, it's been fun. Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's good to reminisce about the good old days, and to be honest, to talk to other practitioners about solution focus always kind of rekindle the fire for me, and kind of reset my own mindset. So thank you for inviting me.
Amazing. Thank you. Joe, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
I was just going to add into what Michael said. It's so lovely to do these conversations because even though we're separated by distance, it seems like we're all human. We have the same issues, the same problems, and this is solution focus is a lovely way that is so universal, which is what's really nice to hear. Because what Michael said tonight is a lot of the stuff, barriers that we come across in the UK.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Michael. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Absolutely. Right, for everybody out there, we'll be back next week. But for now, thank you very much, Michael and Joe, for being an amazing host, as you always are. And for me, who's just been playing games on my phone. No, not really. I was doing admin in the background, I promise you. I promise. That's what I'm doing. Right. Michael, can I just ask that you stay? Yeah, right. Michael, can I just ask that you stay there? And to everybody else, see you next week.